Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over the pistol that you saw in the intro and that I have in my hands right here. This is the HK P30L. So first and foremost, this comes in the P30 configuration and the L. They're basically the exact same pistol, except the L version has a longer slide and a longer barrel. That's really it. Everything else is going to be the same throughout. I prefer the L because I sort of look at this as a duty size gun, not something I'm going to conceal carry, me personally anyway. So I like the extra sight radius and the extra weight personally. So today we're going to do obviously a little bit more shooting with it, and we're going to talk about the pistol itself. This is kind of a pistol that I think has somewhat been forgotten now that the VP9 has been released. I think this one here came out, the L version, in 2008. If I remember correctly. I've had this particular one in for years. I think I've had it in since 2012. Never did a review of it, but I really like it. It's just never got around to it. So we're fixing that today. We're doing the review for you guys so you guys can get a good look at it. So again, we're going to do some more shooting. We're going to let the dogs take a look at it. Then we're going to get into the details at the end. Hopefully we'll wrap it up and let you know what I think of the pistol overall. Getting into the details, we'll start here at the bottom and kind of work our way up. So basically you have your magazines. Now HK magazines are excellent. I've really never seen a bad one. This one here is a 15 round magazine. That's on both the 30L and the 30. So they're both going to have that capacity. Now the magazine quality and construction is what I meant when saying it's excellent. I personally would like to see a little bit more capacity because this is obviously a full-size duty type 9mm, and a lot of the ones you're going to see out there on the market today are going to have 17, 18, 19 rounds in there. So versus some of the competitors, you lose a few rounds, but again, very good made magazines, very well made magazines, I should say, made over in Germany, as you guys can see on there. And these ones here are pretty expensive, but not as expensive as they've been in the past. So like over at Brownells, I picked up a few extra ones. I think a 3-pack was 120 bucks or something like that. So it's certainly not cheap, but in the past that would have been like 160 bucks. So they're coming down in price. I think that's due to the VP9 being out. So a little bit more demand, a little bit more supply, and the prices are coming down there. So next up here, we'll get into the grip. Now the grip on the P30 rather, as well as the VP9, is pretty much the same. They feel the same in my hands, and I mean that as a compliment. Excellent in terms of ergonomics, fit and feel. They're pretty much second to none. It has a good texture on there that's going to keep the pistol from moving around your hands, even if you're out shooting in hot conditions, if you're sweaty, if you may happen to have blood in your hands, anything like that. It sticks to you, but it's not overly abrasive. And again, just the pointability and shootability of the grip is really as good as it gets. Now on the P30 here, we also have some cool features. If you drive this roll pin right here out, you can actually interchange the size of the back straps. That's not that all that rather uncommon these days. A lot of pistols have that, but this one also has these little side panels here that come out, and each of them can be changed independently. So for instance, if you wanted a little bit of a swell here but not here, you could do that. So it's kind of a cool feature. There's 3 different sizes of side panels and 3 different sizes of back straps. So I have mine set up here for the large back strap. I just really like the way it feels in my hand. It's really excellent. I can't give them enough credit there for the ergonomics of it. Continuing moving up, we have the magazine release, which is this little piece right here. It's ambidextrous, as you can see, and it is a paddle style release. Now, longtime viewers of the channel know I'm a big fan of these. A lot of people don't like those. I fully get that. A lot of you guys want your American style button over here on the left. I get it, it's a personal preference thing, but I really do like the paddle mag release. To me, it's just very intuitive, and with the grip being so ergonomic, I can reach it no problem without having to adjust my grip, which I do like as well. So that is that. However, I realize while I may like it, most of you probably will not like it. So we have our slide lock and slide release here. Again, ambidextrous. push up to lock the slide back, and then you can either, of course, slingshot the slide or push down to send it home. So ambidextrous all the way around. It's also very easy to reach. Even with people with small hands, you're going to have no problem getting to it. Some pistols out there on the market, particularly on the right side of the pistol, the ambidextrous ones, a lot of people can't reach them. But this one, absolutely not. It's large enough that you can hit it pretty reliably, but it's not so large that if you're firing, you're going to accidentally actuate it. So again, ergonomics-wise, big win there for the P30. The P30 series of pistols comes with a few different trigger configurations. So this one here is the V3, and basically what it is we have a double action, single action trigger, and this is our decocker back here on the rear of the pistol. So your first shot is going to be in double action, and then your second shot, subsequent shots rather, until you decock it, are in single action. If you want to decock it, you can. Just like that. And as you see there, I should also point out there is no mag safety, which is excellent. That's what I prefer for sure. So the trigger itself, let's get into that, right? It's sort of something that needs to be discussed. So this particular pistol here has about 1,200 to 1,500 rounds through at this point. Not a ton, but enough that a lot of things have changed in terms of the feel of the trigger. So the trigger on this gun now, I don't mind at all. When I first got it, I really hated it. And that's because it smoothed out a good bit, and particularly the double action pull. Now the single action was never terrible, but the double action was super stagey, and it's not anymore. I wish I could have made the video so you guys could see it, but basically right now you can see a little bit of staginess to it. If you guys can kind of see, it looks like my fingers kind of jerking a little bit as it goes through, but it's not bad. It's so much better than it used to be. And it used to pull right around 12 pounds. Now I think it should be pulling right around 10, at least on my scale here. If we can actually check it out here and see what we're doing. Yep, you can see there it's breaking right at 10 pounds if my actual camera will focus in the double action. And then in single action mode, it's probably breaking right around 5 to 6, I would say. Yeah, there you go. Right at 5.5 pounds of pull. Now, one thing to point out there is, again, it does break all the way at the rear, which you guys already saw. Now, some people dislike that. Some people like it. I like it. I personally like it because you don't have a lot of over travel. So that's in double action mode, and then in single action as well. The reset is relatively long. Goes all the way up to there. But again, it breaks to the rear. Not a lot of over travel. The brake's not really crisp either. So I guess you could, knock it for that. I've never had a problem shooting it accurately, though. I've shot this from a bench rest and got, 1.5-inch groups with it. So the pistol is absolutely accurate, and the trigger's not a hindrance in that. But I will tell you, if you get one brand new and your double action trigger is terrible, keep dry firing it or go out and shoot it a good bit live fire. It will smooth out. It's never going to be great, though, because we do have a polymer trigger here. And polymer triggers, for those of you guys that shoot a lot, you'll know what I'm talking about. They just never have the crispness to them that metal triggers have. They can be better than some or worse than others, but a metal trigger, particularly in a double action gun, really does have a better feel to it from a shooter's perspective. But again, this pistol is plenty accurate. From practical accuracy, I don't ever have a problem with it at all. And that is how the trigger system on this one works. And this, again, is the V3 version. Now, there's other versions, so HK offers the LEM version, which is sort of a pre-half-cocked hammer version where everything is sort of double action. It's hard to explain. If you've ever shot one, you either love it or hate it. I personally dislike the LEM version. I'm not a fan of it at all, but some folks who like it love it. So that's the V1. So check that out if you're really somebody who's into that. They also offer a P30S and a P30LS, and those are the safety models, which have set up very similar to what you see here on my HK45. So you'll actually have the safety lever here. You can carry it on safe and it'll just disable the trigger. You can also carry it cocked and locked like that, and again disable the trigger, and you can decock it with your safety. So that's the S version of the P30L. So there's a few others out there. Honestly, I would recommend, if you're not sure which one to get, to do your best to try to at least dry fire them in a gun shop or something like that. But me personally, I absolutely prefer this. I have no problems with double action, single action guns. So this is my personal one. The LEM is just weird to me, and I can never shoot it as accurately as I can this version. Moving on up to the slide. The slide here has a nitrocarburized finish on there. It is a form of salt bath nitriding. They call it their harsh environment finish, I believe is what they call it, and it does hold up really well. You can see this one here has a good bit of use, and really you can only see some wear up there at the front, and maybe on a few of the actual serrations there. But overall, it's holding up very, very well. And this gun's been in and out of a holster countless amounts of times. So the slide itself is made of one piece of billet steel. And again, just the fit and finish of it is exceptional. There's really not a whole lot you could say negatively on that. So the sights that it comes with from the factory are basically a Novak style 3-dot. They're available in either night sights or just the standard. I believe they're like you charge them with light and they glow, but otherwise they're 3-dot sights. They're all steel sights. They're decent sights. However, I prefer something a little bit better. So I went over again and ordered some of the Trijicon HDs. I definitely prefer these in every way over them. They have the nice U-notch there on the rear sight, if you guys can actually see that, if my camera will focus. They have the serrations on there to block glare, and then they have the front sight up there that really draws your eye with that bright color around there. I have a full review of these sights if you guys want to check those out. But these are available. They also have the little ledge there if you want to do one-handed manipulations. But the factory sights are fine. They work. They're certainly not poor like Glock sights or anything like that. I just prefer these over them. So went with those and threw them on there. Last thing I wanted to cover here before we take it apart is the actual rail up front. When the P30 came out, this was one of the first HK pistols to come out with the standard 1913 rail. Before that, they'd been using some proprietary rails. This one will accept any of your aftermarket lights, lasers, anything like that, which I certainly like. We were running it a lot of times here with the Streamlight TLR series on there, if I can actually get it on there when the camera's rolling anyway. But you can see it just mounts up like anything else. No issues there. So I much prefer that. That way you don't have to buy any adapters or anything like that like you do for the USP series. A lot of folks don't like that, myself included. So the 1913 rail is definitely a good addition. We've been running it in a holster here throughout the review. You guys may have noticed this is the KCT holster. It's designed so that way it gives you a real low profile for carrying it outside the waistband. And really, I've had no problem with that. I've used these holsters from these folks over at KCT for, probably 4 or 5 years now. Various models, and the key to them is obviously they give you a good product, but the price is very, very reasonable out there. You know, the Kydex market is very competitive, and they are giving you a lot of holster for the money. So we'll put a link down below for those looking for that. But just wanted to point out that. Now we'll take it apart. To begin the disassembly, we first want to, of course, make sure it's unloaded. So we're going to push up here on our slide lock, make sure it's unloaded. It is. I also have a full cleaning lubrication video for this pistol for those looking for that, where I go into this in much more detail. So we'll sort of speed it up here for the disassembly. But we're going to line this little notch right here up with your slide lock and slide release lever here. We have it lined up like that. We're going to push through on the right side of the pistol, and that should pop right out. Maybe. There we go. Slide should come right off at that point, as it does. Now, HK has a recoil reduction system, and basically what you're seeing here is that, so they have the flat spring, which nowadays has kind of become commonplace on a lot of semi-autos, and then we have this sort of buffer system here for it. So that helps in reducing the recoil, and I'll talk about that here a little bit more in a second. But the barrel itself is a cold hammer forged barrel. The L version here has the 4.45, I believe, inch barrel. It's got polygonal rifling in there. Obviously, that's going to help with accuracy. It's going to give you a little bit more velocity as well, because the bullet gets kind of a better seal as it goes through there. The downside of it is that if you want to shoot a lot of lead reloads, it's generally not going to be recommended, because the lead can build up on the polygonal rifling and have some issues. So I recommend doing whatever HK says in their manual. So we'll just point that out there. We have a nice wide mouth there for feeding hollow points. This gun has never had a single malfunction with any ammo we've put through it, hollow point or not. So you can see it's just machined excellently. And again, think about the wear or lack thereof on this pistol. It just is fit so well, and the finish is very durable on there. It almost looks new, and this gun's been shot a good bit, as we've talked about. Again, speaking of wear, you can see some, of course, there where the barrel hood's interacting with it, but the fit and finish inside this slide is simply exceptional. You just really can't do any better than that. And one of the things I'm sure people are going to ask about is this or the VP9, right? Because they're very similar. But the build quality on a P30, when you handle it for yourself and you go out and shoot it, is much higher than the VP9 in my opinion. I'm not knocking the VP9. I really like the VP9. It's a good gun. But when you handle the two side to side, you can kind of see why there's such a difference in price, because this gun is just built like an absolute tank and no expenses are spared. You can tell when they're putting together. So that is pretty much it. We'll throw it back together now, get it reassembled, and get on with the review. When I had the gun apart, I mentioned the recoil reduction system there, which is basically something that HK does to make the gun shoot a little bit flatter. So one thing that they don't do in that regard is the bore axis. So bore axis here is relatively high, as you guys can see from me holding it in my hand. The bore does sit a little bit high. In 9mm, I really don't find it to be an issue at all, but if you're shooting this in 40 caliber, which this pistol, of course, does come in as well, it may be a little bit flippy for you. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, here's a Glock 17, which has a relatively low bore axis, and you can see just how much higher, if I put them together, that the HK is sitting up above my hand. So that's one thing that is sort of a con for the gun, but again, 9mm, not really a big deal. But now I just want to kind of show you a size comparison. So this pistol here, the P30L, comes in at 29.5 ounces unloaded there on my scale. Just compare that to a Glock. Obviously, it's a little bit heavier, but in terms of size-wise, the L version is very similar overall. So the P30, the standard size, is going to be slide lengthwise anyway, very similar to a 19. You can see sort of how they stack up there in terms of size, but of course with the Glock you're getting 2 extra rounds in your magazine, and again you can kind of see the bore axis difference there, just in the way the pistols are set up. So similar in size overall to the Glock 17, and sort of just to give you another idea, a lot of folks out there have seen the HK 45s. I actually rolled one in earlier. Here's another one. You can see it's very, very similar in terms of design, but the 45 is just a much larger pistol overall. It's just wider, it's beefier, it's chunkier, and it's even longer there in the frame. We can get them all lined up. So both excellent guns, but that's how they stack up size-wise. Earlier in the video, I alluded to the price point, saying it was a good bit more than the VP9, and it is. So let's talk about that. Street price on these is going to be right around $1,000, generally speaking, plus or minus 50. So that's expensive, particularly for a polymer framed gun. So just getting that right off the bat, I'm sure a lot of people just clicked off the video, but those of you that are still here, let's discuss it, right? So I purchased this pistol myself, full retail, again, years ago, and that was after firing a few P30s that friends of mine had. And it's just a very impressive pistol overall. The accuracy is phenomenal. There's really a lot of published reports on that. I didn't go into the accuracy too much here, but you can look stuff up, and it's right up there with, you know, custom 1911s in terms of the kind of groups that this pistol can produce. And to be able to do that while still having the reliability that this pistol has is exceptional. This one here, like I said, never had a single malfunction. And this is one of the most documented pistols out there on the market, period, in terms of reliability. There's been a number of reliability studies that you can read about. I know Wikipedia has a bunch. HK has some on their website as well. In terms of the long-term durability of this pistol and parts just not breaking, not having malfunctions. When I was down at Battlefield Las Vegas, they had excellent things to say about the P30 series of pistols in terms of reliability and durability, and that's a place that goes through a ton of rounds, and to get, you know, a compliment like that from those guys is certainly a good thing. And like I said, the fit, finish, the feel of it is just exceptional. Now, that said, I think most people, particularly in 2017, will probably shoot the VP9 better. And that is simply because the VP9 has a trigger that is, of course, striker fired, so it's more consistent, and it's just a nicer trigger overall. It's very crisp, it's relatively lightweight, and it has the ergonomics of this gun, which are excellent as well. So I think a lot of people are going to pick up the VP9 and just be drawn to that because of price and the trigger. But if you are somebody who likes double action, single action pistols, or, you know, cocked and locked, or LEM, like we talked about, those different options, and you want a gun that really is just bomb proof, like you're going to go to hell and back with a pistol, this is one I would definitely take a look at. There's just, I don't know, if you've never felt one and you never fired one, it's hard to explain, but it just feels like quality in your hand, which is very hard to do for a lot of folks for a polymer frame pistol, but this one does it in my opinion. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about this pistol that we didn't go over in the video, by all means, post down below in the comment section. If you guys have one of these, let me know what you think of it overall, and Thanks for watching. As always, if you have any comments that you didn't put down in the comment section, you can also put those over at my Facebook page. As always, that is generally the best way to get in touch with me. And again, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber and you just found this video through a search, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like what you see, and we'll see you guys in the next video.